Yesterday on Thanksgiving, I woke up from having slept late and I wanted to go for a walk in the park before the sun went down. As I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed a van next to me. There was a woman outside the passenger door of the van. She whirled around and stared at me for about 6 seconds. Her face was completely cracked out. It had that sunken reptile look. Her eyes were absolutely dead. I could tell she was completely out of it. In the driver's seat was a greasy-looking man. He was just staring at me. I got out of the car and wasn't too worried yet because this park is kind of on a busy street. I began walking towards the path that would lead me into the park while constantly looking behind me. The Crackheads were now in their van, rooting around for something. As I made my way further into the park, the sun began fading fast. I was also upset because I really looked forward to walking in the park for stress relief. But the darker it got, I kept worrying that the couple were following me, or waiting around the next bend for me. Finally, I gave up any chance of enjoying this stroll and decided to return to my car. This is where it gets doubly odd. As I exited the trees and made my way back to my car, I saw the van. At this point, I was about 2 minutes from my car. The woman was outside the passenger door again, only this time the man was standing next to her. She began making sharp, high-pitched meowing noises and then moaning. Then a blue light appeared before my feet and kind of danced back and forth in front of my feet. The guy was holding a flashlight and shining it through the van windows directly in front of me. Every internal alarm I had was going off. Both the man and the woman were watching me with dead eyes, the woman still meowing. I was too afraid to run back into the trees and risk an incident where no one would be around to help me. I decided to just risk the chance that I might be faster than them, that I can get in my car quicker than they could, and do whatever it was they were going to do to me. I began walking at a very fast clip towards my car, while keeping an eye on them. As I got 5 feet from my driver's door, the man made a beeline for me, his blue light hitting me in the eyes. He was right at my trunk heading for my driver's door when I shut it and locked the doors immediately. The woman walked to my passenger door and just stared at me. The guy did the same at my driver door. I flicked the man off and very obviously mouthed the words "fuck you" in slow motion. I started my car and sped off away from the park and returned home. Then I called my family, who were all in different states than me, and told them I loved them and missed them. So I'm a male nurse at a large hospital in San Francisco. I work in the ER, and as is custom Thanksgiving night, it was very busy. Now my wife is also a nurse for the same hospital. She works in labor and delivery. Between babies being born left and right and the people coming into the ER, we hadn't had a chance to take a break together as we try to do every shift. So when she called, I figured it was to say she wanted to meet up for a bite to eat in the cafeteria. When I answered, I heard in the background a male voice screaming profanities. In the background, and my wife trying to calm down this guy. She told me their pager wasn't working and they needed a security stat. I quickly hung up for security, told my fellow nurses what was going on, and ran for labor and delivery, worried sick about my wife. When I almost ran square smack dab into the visibly angry man. He wasn't huge, but bro definitely worked out and not at the gym. He was covered in prison tattoos and he was obviously a banger. I work out regularly, but I knew this guy could kick my ass. He looked at me, gave me this sick grin, and started heading towards me, spouting off in Spanish. I don't speak fluent Spanish, but what I could understand scared the living shit out of me. I'm backing up as fast as I can. I start buzzing the door to the ER frantically for them to let me in. This guy's literally a foot away from me, and the door opens and I'm pulled into safety by a doctor. Gangbanger punches the door a few times, makes a dragging sign across his throat while grinning at us both. Next thing I know, the police rush into the corridor he's in and takes 2 security officers and 2 cops to subdue this dude. I finally make it to my wife, who thankfully was shaken up but unhurt. She explained to me what had happened. A young girl, only 14, came in, high fever, vomiting, distended belly. The banger claimed that he was her brother and they needed to cut her open to get her baby. They did an ultrasound, and to their horror they realized she wasn't pregnant, but she had bags of drugs in her stomach. It's very common for drug mules to bring over young women from Mexico carrying drugs that way. Homeboy freaked out when they informed his sister needed emergency surgery. And no, he wasn't getting his drugs. Thankfully, the girl survived, but the sad thing is, she'll most likely be deported once she recovers. It was Thanksgiving 2011, and I was celebrating at my grandparents' farm in the little town of Seville, Florida. I had had way too much to eat that holiday and was about to leave to drive back to school in Tallahassee. I stopped at one little gas station in town to fill up before getting on the highway. I had just finished filling up when a lady walked up to me. She was really ratty looking with crazy blonde dyed hair, but this is the backwoods of Florida, so no judgment, I guess. There were really kind people who looked like that in those parts. She started talking to me about how her car had run out of gas. She pointed to an old junker parked over near the convenience store, and if I could possibly give her some cash to get home. I usually don't say yes to things like that, but it was Thanksgiving weekend, so I was feeling extra generous. I told her I'd be happy to fill up her car a little to get her home. Then it started getting weird. She kept insisting I give her cash and that the car was so empty she couldn't drive it to a pump. I don't know why I didn't leave right then and there, but then again, I was in a very good mood. I told her if she had a gas can, I would put some in, but I didn't feel comfortable giving her cash. She kept objecting, but eventually went over and pulled a gas can from her car. I started filling it up. She put her hand on me and said, "Do you have a girlfriend?" I told her no, politely. She said she wanted to pay me back somehow for gas and asked if I wanted to come back to her place. I told her no, less politely. She kept touching my shoulder, thanking me, and then offered me a blowjob behind the station, so I stopped the gas pump, got in my car, and left her there with the gas can. I called my mom a little later and told her about the creepy, sleazy encounter. She paused and asked if this lady had ratty blonde hair and if she looked like she was on drugs. I confirmed that yes, that's what she looked like, and how could she possibly know that? This lady was apparently all over the news. She was a prostitute in town and had been at a party earlier. An exchange had gone south and her baby had been kidnapped by a client of hers and left under a bush in town. She hadn't even bothered to call the police about the missing child until later, and they were both arrested and charged.